Tonight. Last week, a Baldwin County jury found Marcus Lillard not guilty of killing University of Georgia professor Mary Ann Shockley.
It's the third time since November District Attorney T. Wright Barksdale has taken a Baldwin County murder case to trial and failed to convince a jury. Ashlyn Webb joins us in studio with more. Ashlyn.
Yes, overall, the DA's office has lost almost half of the murder cases they've tried in Baldwin County since Barksdale took office in January 2021. His office has tried 7 murder cases in the county. 3 of those ended in acquittal.
It's not unsurprising that you could lack a conviction in a case like those that have been lost by Barksdale.
That's martial law professor David Odell. He says each of those cases presented challenges for Barksdale's prosecutors, beginning with the case of DeQuantis Parks. He was found not guilty of murdering Quatez Jones in June 2020. The Baldwin County Sheriff's Office said Parks confronted the 16-year-old near the Milledgeville Manor apartments and shot him several times.
There were 2 eyewitnesses that got on the stand and pointed the guy out. But I think ultimately the jury chose not to believe him.
Barksdale says the jury likely questioned the credibility of those witnesses. Odell says we're seeing a trend nationally where jurors are more hostile toward prosecutors.
There is kind of a growing sense of skepticism about the prosecutorial process and the bona fides of these whoever they are, prosecutors, DAs, whatever they are, U.S. attorneys.
The next case is William Weaver. A jury acquitted him of shooting his ex-wife's husband, Jody Raley. The Baldwin Sheriff's Office says Raley and his wife, Amanda, were arguing in September 2019. That day, she called her ex-husband, William, to come pick up his son. When Weaver got to the home, the 2 men got into an argument. Prosecutors say that ended with Weaver shooting Raley once.
You know, he shot an unarmed man. There's no dispute about that. He didn't dispute that. He was claiming self-defense. He stayed there and rendered aid. Based on the law, we felt like we had to move forward with that case.
Then the latest case involved Marcus Lillard, who was acquitted last Friday in the murder of UGA professor Mary Ann Shockley. Lillard was accused of strangling Shockley to death while they were having sex at the home of his friend. But the only possible witness in the case, the homeowner Clark Heindel, committed suicide that night.
Who's to say who killed whom? And I think that decision was understandable by the jury.
So Barksdale says they had to rely on testimony from women who had relationships with Lillard.
The 6 or 7 women that had previous relationships with the defendant who got on the stand and said, hey, he did a similar thing to me. We believe that was enough to identify him. And that was the issue in that case.
Now, it's important to put these losses into context. Yes, Barksdale's office has lost nearly half of the cases in Baldwin County. Odell says that's unusual because prosecutors typically don't push cases that they lose. However, the Okmulgee Judicial Circuit, which Barksdale represents, covers 8 counties. In his 16 months in office, they've tried 16 murder cases, with 4 coming back as not guilty. Odell says that's not a bad batting average circuit-wide. Frank, Lori, back to you.
Barksdale added there's been enough cases they've lost and won.
He says his office will continue to follow the law and the evidence, and Barksdale said, quote, he will continue to be an aggressive prosecutor.